The average that I see on teams when doing outbound correctly has been an average of 7x increase in revenue. Yes, seven times of what they're currently generating has been the increase on average. I have even seen it as high as 11x. You've already built a business doing 6 figures a month, but what if there's an extra 30 to 50% of revenue just sitting right under your nose, waiting for you to figure out how to unlock it? You see, most founders believe that they have a lead problem, but the reality is they don't know how to actually follow up with their past buyers, people that are sitting in no-shows, or even those pesky opt-in leads that have just been sitting there the entire time collecting dust. In today's episode, we're not only going to cover how to outreach to those, but I'm going to give you the only outbound strategy you are ever going to need going into 2026. And while I teach you the strategy and the frames, I'm going to be using real numbers from an actual case study of a company I'm working with right now in the past 45 days. Now, why even listen to me on Outbound? Well, I've worked with other agencies to go from 0 to 100K months completely cold, not even warm, doing cold outreach, cold calls, cold emails, text messaging, the whole shebang. I've worked with brands like Jason Capital going from 0 to 1.4 million in revenue in the first 4 months, combining inbound and outbound with his brand. And we're going to be covering a lot of those strategies in today's episode. So by the end of the episode, here's everything we're going to cover. You're going to know, number one, how to know if outbound is actually worth it for your business. Because reality is, based on the stage you're at, it could be that the timing is not there, and that's okay. Number two, how to actually prioritize your time and your team's time to know what leads to focus on in what order. That way you're being as efficient as humanly possible. And finally, the exact frames that we use right now to turn old buyers and old leads into actual new revenue. Now, as a bonus, we are also going to cover lightly cold outbound and cold outreach because this question comes up a lot. And since I have actually ran outbound teams going cold to 100K months, I want to give you the similarities of frames if you don't have a choice but to do cold. Okay, so we are going to cover that by the end of the episode. So make sure that you stay tuned until the end. Huge gold nuggets coming your way. All right, so why does this matter right now? If you've been tuning into the show thus far, you may have noticed that it's been a while since I posted an episode because at the end of the last episode, I kind of teased the client that I had that is an agency in the life insurance space, right? And in policies, they're doing about 6 million a year just in policies. And he created his own high ticket offer. And this offer, they're doing pretty well. They're doing about 80 to 100K a month with this new high ticket offer, working with other agents to implement the same strategy and systems that he is using. Okay. And I wanted to put together a training and I wanted to be as valuable as human possible. And I wanted to actually give you guys the good, the bad, and even the ugly of what's happening in real time while I was working with them. So everything is fresh on my mind. So I have been patiently waiting. You have no idea how excited I am for this episode because I've just been collecting data, documenting everything we're doing. And again, I want to share the good. And I hate when people don't also share the bad, right? Because there's always learning lessons and not everything goes perfectly. And it's not going to go perfectly for you either. So I want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly so you can understand all the lessons along the way, plus exactly what we're doing that is working right now today. Okay. So part one, let's dive into this. Should you actually do outbound? Now, I want to give an example that's outside of this case study first, just with simple math and numbers so that you can understand why it's even worth it in the first place. Okay. So let's say you are a business owner and you are spending about 10K per month on ads. So 10,000. And you hire a part-time sales rep or closer, and they're closing about 5 deals a month, and your offer is $10,000. So super easy. 10K goes out, they close a deal for 10,000 in revenue. Now, your part-time closer is making 5K a month at 10% commissions. So 5K a month in their pocket. Now, that's 10K out going into ads and 50K back in revenue. Okay. That is a 5-to-1 return on ad spend, meaning you go to Facebook and you say, hey, Facebook, I'm going to give you $1. And then boop, Facebook spits $5 back. Not a bad deal, right? I mean, anyone in their right mind would continuously keep putting money into advertising, knowing that it's going to give them $5 back. Great. Now, what about profit? Because we talked about revenue, but think about it. You paid 10K in ads. You had to give 5K to your closer, leaving you with 35,000 left over in profit. Now, From your profit, that's $1 out and $3.5 back, right? $3.50. Again, not a bad deal. You're giving $1 out and you're getting 3.5x back every single time. No one in their right mind would ever turn that off and stop doing that, right? Good. Now, you realize after 6 months of seeing this success that you want to know if you can look under the hood at your numbers and decide, can I actually scale this? Maybe you're not satisfied with 35K a month in profit. And you want to know, well, can I spend more money on ads? Can I actually grow this beast? Is there room for growth and potential? Now, after looking under the hood, you do the math and you realize that every single opt-in into your funnel process that you're spending is costing you about $25 each, meaning they land on your page, they register for your training, okay? Not necessarily that they booked a call, but every opt-in is $25. Now, out of a 10K budget, if you do the math, that's 400 leads per month that is opting in to your current process that you are spending money on, right? Now, you also realize that out of those 400 leads, you have an insanely high conversion into a booking call, a whopping 10%. 40 people out of 400 leads per month is booking a call on your closer's calendar. Now, just so you guys know, that's insanely high. 10% is not standard at all. What is standard is typically around like 3%. People are happy with 1, but you can scale if you're at 3%. But for the sake of this example, we're going to say it's just your offer's great, your copy's great, and you're converting at 10%. But there is one problem, and that problem is your show rate is terrible. In fact, you have about a 60% show rate, meaning 4 people out of 10 people who book a call, for whatever reason, they're just not showing up. And after looking at the numbers, you realize that your closer is closing at 20%, which again is industry standard. That's completely fine. That means 2 out of 10 calls, they're closing a deal. Hence, 5 deals per month that is actually closing to revenue. That's 50K a month in revenue, right? So these are the numbers that you realize after looking under the hood. So you decide to go and look at your CRM over the past 6 months and you realize, well, wait a second, there's 2,400 leads that is just staring me in the face in my CRM. And in the past 6 months, off a 20% close rate and 60% showing, that's led to 30 deals that have been closed. But remember those pesky no-shows that I just told you about? Out of the 40% who didn't show up? Well, in 6 months, turns out that there's actually 96 people just sitting there in the no-show column of your CRM. 240 total have booked a call. And out of the people who were pitched, because again, remember, 20% was close rate. That means the other 80% never said yes, leaving you with a whopping 115 people that are just sitting there in the follow-up and pending close. And then you get this huge gut-wrenching feeling in your stomach. And that feeling is that you realize you're sitting on a gold mine, but no one has been following up this entire time, not even your closer. Ouch. Now, if you're watching this training, you may be able to relate to this. You could actually be sitting on a gold mine right now after who knows how many months and years of you doing this process, and there's no systems or process for follow-up whatsoever. So what do? How do you actually tap into this? So you decide that you want to go and get not anyone, but an actual professional, someone that will be compensated to go and follow up with all the leads and turn them into revenue. Now, what I recommend is that you go and you find a profit partner. Okay. If you don't know what a profit partner is, I'll put a link below in the description. We've covered this on previous episodes of the podcast. I have episodes on what a profit partner is, what they do, how to find them, and even an episode on how to launch and onboard them into your company. So make sure you check out the link in the description. Go back and watch those episodes. Okay. So you decide to find a profit partner. So they will lead the entire operation, not only outbound, but will also close them as well. So they're going to reach out, not give them to your closer, but they're going to just go ahead and handle it and they're going to close it themselves. Now, remember, this is separate from the inbound. Your inbound closer during this process is still taking those calls and closing 5 deals a month. So this is just free revenue. Now, after speaking to a profit partner, they decide that they will only do it if you'll pay them 30% of new revenue that is generated. 30%. Now, you may be thinking that and be like, well, there's no way that I can actually afford to pay 30%. That seems like a lot, right? I mean, my closer is only getting 10%. The real question becomes, is it actually worth it to take on this deal? Well, let's look at the numbers. Let's do some math and determine, is it actually worth it? So month 7 comes around and you agree to do this deal with your profit partner, and they decide to prioritize their time accordingly. And they're going to outbound all the past pending deals. They're going to reach out to all the no-shows. And they're also going to hit the most recent 360 opt-ins from month 6. So that means the 10K you spent last month, those are fresh opt-ins. So it's still going to be like on top of mind, right? They're just going to go hit all those people who never booked a call and turn them into revenue. Now, the profit partner uses the very same frames that I'm going to teach you later on in this training today, okay? And they convert 1% of all the opt-ins into revenue and 7 deals from past pending deals just sitting in your columns and no-show. So 7 from there and 1% of opt-ins. Again, not bad. Now, 1% of the 360 leads is 4 deals plus the 7 past pending and no-shows, leaving you with 11 new deals closed at 10K in revenue. That's 110,000 in new revenue. So 77,000 goes into the business, and your profit partner makes 30%, which is 33,000 in their pocket. Now, your profit partner obviously is on cloud 9. I mean, they are ecstatic, and they realize like, holy cow, I just made 30K in 1 month. This has only been 360 of the leads, and there's still 5 months worth of pipeline. So your profit partner is absolutely pumped. They're not going anywhere. And again, remember, the closer already closed another 50K in revenue from inbound, all with the same budget. Now, let me ask you a question. Did you have to spend any more money on top of the $10,000, which was your ad spend, for you to make an extra 77,000 of new revenue? Now, the answer is clearly no. Not only did your ad spend not change, but the 33,000 that you had to pay out to your profit partner doesn't even count against your return on ad spend, because you were already spending 10K a month, and these are past leads. You already paid to acquire those leads, right? So it actually doesn't cost you anything extra, even with the 30%. Your ROAS is only going to go up. In fact, you took that old 5-to-1 return on ad spend and you turned it into a whopping 16-to-1 return on ad spend. That's 10,000 out and 160K in new revenue back. Now, that is $1 to Facebook and $16 back, right? Huge. That's 50K coming from inbound and 110K new revenue that's just been sitting there in your pipeline that came from outbound as the main focus. Here's the crazy part. You now more than tripled your revenue just in month 7 by doing outbound. But what about profit? Because again, remember, we had to pay 30% to this profit partner. So was that even worth it? I mean, you had to pay 10K to Facebook. You had to give 5K to your closer, and you had to give a whopping 33,000 to your profit partner. So that's 48,000 in expenses. So sure, 16-to-1 is all great, but what about your profit? Was it actually worth it? Well, that actually comes out to 112,000. If you take 160 minus 48, that's 112,000 in profit for your company, which is an 11.2 to 1. So you took the old 3.5 to 1, and now you can give Facebook $1 and make $11.20 back. Profit, not revenue, profit. You still more than tripled your profit also on top of the revenue. By partnering with a profit partner and paying them 30% of all revenue that they can generate in your pipeline with strictly outbound, you can now give Facebook $1 and get $16 back instead of just $5. You can give Facebook $1 and make 11.2 back in profit instead of 3.5. Now, here's what's crazy. Let's go back in time before this happens. You know what's going to happen. And let's say the profit partner is like, you know what? I know I'm worth more. I've been doing this for a really long time. I'm really good at outbound. I'm good at what I do. I've been in the space for 10 plus years. And the only way this is worth my time is if I can earn 50%. Let's say they ask for half, not even 30, meaning you had to pay them 55K out of the revenue generated instead of 33. Your return on ad spend would still be 16-to-1. That actually wouldn't change. You're still getting 16-to-1 of your money because, again, you didn't have to pay anything extra to acquire these leads. So that doesn't change. But what about your profit? Well, after leftover, you would have 90K in profit instead of 112K because you have the difference of 33 to 55, meaning you get a 9.1 return on profit instead of 5-to-1, which, by the way, is it triple like it was off the 30%? No, but you still get 2.5x, right? 2.5x more in profit by giving 50% to a profit partner. Like, just think about that for a moment. So ask again, was it actually worth it for you to pay 30% in commissions? And was it worth it for you to do outbound in the first place? Would it even be worth it if you had to do the 50%? Obviously, the answer is yes. And the moral of this, and what I want you to understand is don't be cheap. If you decide to do this and you decide to do outbound and you want to do it right, and you want to actually incentivize someone that has experience and do this correctly, you got to pay them what they're worth. I have too many conversations with people where they want to they want to over negotiate and keep it down to like 20% or 25%. It's like, it doesn't change anything, even if you agree to 50-50. And the cool thing is like, you really have nothing to lose, because if they don't perform, it didn't cost you anything extra. You have everything to gain given this 90 days. So don't be cheap, actually pay what talent is worth. Now, again, in this example, there are a ton of leads that are just sitting on the table in the CRM, not including new ones that are coming in each and every month. Because you got to remember, as you're spending the 10K a month, 360 new leads that didn't book a call are still sitting there. By adding outbound, you have actually drastically allowed yourself to spend more on ads without the fear of your cost per lead going up, because your return on ad spend has now increased, which allows you to spend more money, which allows you to grow. And I also want to add some great news. Remember how I told you guys before on those numbers that it was like a 1% of opt-ins, and based on the increase here, it's only about 3x, triple. That was actually me being extremely conservative. The average that I see on teams when doing outbound correctly has been an average of 7x increase in revenue. Yes, seven times of what they're currently generating has been the increase on average. I have even seen it as high as 11x in terms of return from adding outbound. That wasn't common, but that's the highest in the peak that I've ever seen it go to. So even if you lowball it below 7, you get a 3x return, it is still absolutely worth it to do this process and to pay high commissions to get the right person to do so. This isn't a question or a debate on whether it's inbound versus outbound and which one is better. Like, which one should you actually do? It should never be an either or, okay? It should always be, how can I have both, but implement outbound at the right time in my business and in my company? So I hope that this example has been enough to get you to see why doing outbound is just so crucial and important for your business. But more importantly, how much it's costing you in revenue by not actually making this a priority, because you could have deals just staring you in the face right now in your CRM. And if that is the case and your numbers are healthy, you have healthy close rate, you have healthy conversions, then it may be the time to start implementing this. Hey, real quick, we're talking systems right now, and here's the truth. Even if you've nailed leads and offers, a broken system will absolutely crush your ability to scale. But how do you know which one it is? That's why I built a very fast diagnostic assessment. In only 30 seconds, you'll know whether systems are your real bottleneck or if it's something else entirely. Just check the link in the description, take the 30-second assessment, and you'll know. Now, back to the episode. Now, let's get back to the real-world example. Now that you know why outbound is worth it, and let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly, and talk about what actually happened in these past 45 days. So this agency situation, before starting outbound, and they came to me, I want to clarify some things, okay? So their core offer on the front end is kind of a hybrid. It's a course/coaching that they're selling right now for $9.95, okay? So if you want to learn how to do what they're doing to sell policies as an agent, you would pay almost $1,000, and you would also get group coaching. So not bad, pretty cheap. Now, their upsells, here's what's crazy. I asked them about any type of upsells and high ticket rates, and they had a 4K and a 12K. And I know the guy that's running their chat team who is having conversations from the brand and selling the 1Ks. And I was like, well, what are the upgrade rates and who's actually taking these calls? And he's like, well, calls, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, the calls for the 4K and the 12K, how do you guys selling those? He goes, oh, no. We're selling those through chat. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, we're just actually, after they pay the 1K, we just tell them about the new offer, and we have a small percentage of them who go and pay. So I was like, you having people pay you 4,000, even 12K, like 12,000 in full, just from a chat conversation. And he's like, well, yeah. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. Even to me, that is incredible, which means and tells me that they actually have a really solid process in place. And most people can't do that without having a team in place. So my brain goes, well, if they can do that through chat, surely you could get higher conversions even if you have people on the phone, right? And they had no structure for activation whatsoever. There is no phone calls in place, and there's really no upgrade path. It's very unclear of like how to get people who say no to this offer now through chat. If they say no to the 4K and 12K, how do you actually get the people who pay 1K to say yes to this later on? There's actually no structure in place. So revenue was existing, and again, they're killing it. They're doing 80K to 100K a month through chat, running ads, running ads to a video, having a chat conversation, and then boom, selling high ticket without even interacting with somebody over the phone. Absolutely incredible what they accomplished. Now that you know the situation, I want to go into the first rule of outbound, okay? Before I could say yes to this, I knew that they had to have good conversions for this to make sense. So rule number one, you need a minimum of a 3% conversion rate. Remember earlier in the example I gave you, and I said it was 10%, and that's really, really high. The average you want to look for is 3%. So outbound is only going to work if your offer is good enough to convert at least 3%. Now, I'm not saying that 3% of them total have to buy. I'm saying if you're spending money on ads, and you should be, especially if you're a founder, you should be getting traffic. Traffic is very important. Whatever that process is, are you at least converting on the front end 3% to go to the next step? 3% of people booking a call, or 3% of people taking the next step after watching a training, whatever it may be, right? 3%. So we looked at their numbers, we calculated it. They were at 3.2%, which is right on the cusp. So green light for outbound. I was like, okay, we are good there. All right. Now that I knew we were good on the conversion rate, we went through what I call an outbound readiness test. And this is a test that I want you to look through for your own business to decide, is it going to be worth time for you to invest into this? And the first thing is the 3% or higher. So we had a check mark there. The next is, what is your actual proven close rate? Okay. If you're actually doing things like phone calls and sales, are you at least converting 20% or higher? Okay. Very, very important. Do you already have an offer that is good enough to convert? And is it validated? Now, by validated means you are closing 20% or higher, and you have actual testimonials and case studies that are relevant to your buyers. Okay. That means that your offer is at least good enough to where right now you have case studies you can leverage in your process, because you're going to need these whenever you do go do outbound. And finally, idle demand. Do you have past idle leads in your CRM, people who have actually showed interest, but they just, for whatever reason, never converted? If you have all these things in place, you check the box for outbound, you are good to go. And I would highly, highly recommend that you do this. There is one caveat to this, and that is going to be content. And we're going to cover that later on in this episode. Now, for the case of this case study, revenue on the table was about 46,000 leads just sitting in their pipeline, which I was like, holy cow, this is a lot. Great. They already had tons of current buyers because they're doing 80 to 100K a month, right? They closed hundreds of clients who has the potential to actually be upgraded into their high ticket offer. And what was even more crazy was the brand awareness. The owner of the company literally has over 200K combined followers. We're talking like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And anytime you have someone who's posting consistently, it makes your life 10 times easier for inbound and for outbound. So branding awareness is very, very important. But the best part was they already have a world-class DM closing team. And I mean world-class. If you're closing 4K and 12K programs without the need for a sales call and you're doing it through chat, that is what I would call world-class. And DM teams compared to actual setters and closers over the phone, they're actually the hardest to train up to KPI. And because of just how long of a process it takes to get people to actually get it. So the fact that this team has already worked with big brands besides this one client, and they've closed millions in revenue, made me very, very confident that if this didn't work out, we can always still pivot and improve the process of what they're already doing. So there's a lot of room to things that we can actually go and test. And test is exactly what we did. All right, let's get into part two. If you checked all the boxes, you're good on the readiness. Now, how do you actually do outbound? It's time to turn it on. What are the frames that you should actually use? So before getting into the frames, it's very, very important that you understand how to do order of operations for your leads. Which ones are most important? Tier one, this is what I prioritize first. Call these your hottest leads. These are the people in your pipeline who you need to follow up with. These are people who said like maybe, and they're just sitting on the fence. Think about your pending deals, past pending closes. Who are the ones that you know you should have followed up with in the past 6 months that should have said yes or never signed their agreement? Or maybe they did sign an agreement and they just didn't pay yet. Compile that as a list. These are going to be your hottest leads. These are tier one. And of course, any active conversations that are currently in your pipeline right now. Now, you're going to attack these first. Order of importance. Number one, attack these. Then you're going to go into tier two. When you're done prioritizing tier one, then we focus on the middle tier, which is your medium priority. These are people who have booked a call with you in the past, and they're just sitting there in no-shows, meaning they had shown interest, they wanted to have a conversation, but for whatever reason, they just did not attend your call, right? These would be medium tier. And finally, tier three, these are like your lowest priority. When you're done with tier one, you're done with tier two, then you would go into lowest priority. These are people who are past opt-ins. They had shown interest, but they have never gotten to the step of wanting to have a conversation and book a call, right? Now, when you look at past opt-ins, just like the example I gave earlier in this episode, you want to prioritize most recent to last, okay? So if you are spending money on ads and you want to go in outbound opt-ins, make sure that you're opting the ones who opted in the most recently first, and then the coldest people would be the ones that you hit later on, okay? Prioritize it accordingly because it's still fresh. Your message, your branding, whatever ad they saw, it's still fresh on their mind. Now, in this case of this example, remember, there's no sales team. So as far as medium priority, because there's no phone calls and everything's through chat, there are no past no-shows of appointments. And the chat team already has a process in place to follow up with past conversations. So I can't really touch medium priority. So in my case with this client, this didn't make sense for me, okay? But they did have hot leads. They had people who had already paid $995 over the past 6+ months who has potential to upgrade to their 4K and their 12K. So boom, check mark. I know we are going to focus over the past 45 days. We focus on hot leads. Can't do medium because there's no calls, but tier three is focus number two. They have a crap ton of past opt-ins, right? 46,000 leads just sitting there, people who have opted in to watch this training, but for whatever reason, never got to a conversation with the chat team. And because they haven't gotten a conversation, they haven't even been pitched the offer. So there's just so much potential just sitting on the table in the CRM. But this is how you prioritize, and this is how I want you to think about it in your own business. So right now, while you're watching this, go ahead and write down, what do you have? Do you have tier one? Do you have tier two? Do you have tier three? Put them in the order so you know, order of priority, so you know what it is to go and focus on. Now, here's the actual sequence. Anytime you're going to do these touch points and you're going to hit your tier one, tier two, or tier three, you always want to do email first. Okay? I cannot stress this enough. Email your list always. Okay? Now, here's the thing with email. I don't even care if they read it. I do not care. I don't care if they open it. I don't care if they see it. It does not matter to me. It's just to leverage, and you'll see how later on in this training, it's just a leverage point for you to use when you do get in contact with them, right? It's just a reason to reach out because you sent them an email. That's the best part about it. And you will get responses from email. So there's that. After you email them, then you want to send SMS. So if you have phone numbers and you have a list, leverage that. Send a text message second. These also have very, very high open rates. They're way more personal. And you can follow up literally like 2 to 3 days after you send the first email. And finally, call every single person last. So if you're going to do this yourself or you have someone on your team, that's going to be the sequence order of events. Email first, then send text blast, then call all of the leads based on the priority, right? Now, the main frame you're going to use from your email, your text, and even your phone calls, this is like the hub. This is the maximum frame that's going to cover all the other frames I'm going to teach you in this training. And I call it the middleman frame. And I like to use this analogy. Think about when you get a phone call from the assistant at a dental office. Okay, they call you out of the blue and they're like, "Hey, Dylan, this is Sophia from blah, blah, blah dentist. I was just calling to confirm your appointment that's coming in 3 days from now. Are you still good for that time?" Right? Now, do you hang up on Sophia? Do you get mad that Sophia called you out of the blue? Are you outraged and irate? that Sophia called you to follow up and confirm your appointment? No. If you don't see her phone call and she sends it as a text message, you're like, oh, it's Sophia. This is why she's reaching out. Or if she leaves you a voicemail and you hear it, you're probably going to call or text her back to confirm your appointment. But why? What's the difference? Why is it that Sophia from the dental office can follow up with you and reach out to you and your sales guard doesn't go up whatsoever? Why is it? Well, it's because Sophia is using middleman frame and she has a reason for reaching out to you. So the middleman is, hey, I'm Sophia calling on behalf of the dentist. She is the middleman. Okay. You can't kill the messenger. Sophia's just doing her job. That's the same frame you want to use with people on your team. So if you are the brand and you are the owner, you want people on your team to lean on you and they are the middleman. They are reaching out because you told them to. Now, this is always, okay, always with any frame that you learn from this training, if there's anything you can take away, please, the middleman frame is going to save your life. I see so many calls and so many pieces of content on YouTube and Instagram of people who are really good. Don't get me wrong. I've seen trainings where these guys who are teaching cold calls and they're really, really good, their tonality, and they're just unfazed by rejection. And they say things like, hey, this is so-and-so calling. I want to let you know, like, this is a cold call. Would you like me to continue? And it's like, would that work? Sure. Can you train somebody to have really, really good reflexes and tonality and rapport to handle that frame? Sure. But my question to you is, why even choose a difficult frame to begin with? Why? The difference between them and me is that the frame I use, I could take somebody completely average and have them be successful without needing all those extra skills because it's the frame that we choose. So that is the middleman frame. And always think about that as we continue throughout this training. Okay. Now, first frame, this one is very, very rare. I've used this for agencies, people that do like social media marketing, paid advertising, and we've used things called the partner frame. Basically what the partner frame is if you have an offer, this does not apply to everyone, but if you have an offer that in any way, shape, or form could be partnered, meaning like you get a percentage of, let's say, revenue, or you get a percentage of equity, or you get a percentage of profit, right? You can actually reach out to clients and use this frame because it kind of triggers curiosity. So for one agency, even doing cold, we literally sent out emails and text messages and said, hey, would you be open to partnering on an 8 to 12% rev share in return for blah, 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 right? It was an offer that was just so good and it was leaning on partner frame that the response rate was very, very high. Now, the downside to the partner frame is that you are going to get poor lead quality. Okay. This is kind of the double-edged sword of partner frame is if you reach out to people and saying like, hey, would you like to partner? And you have something that you're selling, just know that you're going to attract kind of like the bottom of the barrel leads. So this is going to be very, very high volume. If you use partner frame, that is the downside. Frame number 2, this one is actually one we are using right now with this case study. It is by far my favorite frame to use. This crushes, and I call it the free training frame. Essentially, you're just reaching out to everyone in your pipeline. You're giving them value. You're just creating a new asset. It could be anything. It doesn't even have to be a training. It could be a calculator. It could be a diagnostic. It could be anything that you feel like they would actually find valuable. And you know what? If you test it and they're not receptive, that means they don't care. That's okay. You have unlimited resources of things you can try to reach out to get them interested. And essentially, hey, we built something new and we wanted to show you like what's working right now. So you're just reaching out on behalf of them to give them value, not even to sell them anything, which again, high response rates, more conversations, more sales opportunities. All right. And finally, frame number 3, this is what I call the concerned frame. Okay. Again, this absolutely crushes. Imagine you have a process right now where at the end of your funnel, you have a training and you tell them to click below to book a call. Well, concerned framed, which I've used this across multiple teams, is when you would reach out to every single person and say, hey, saw that you saw the training on XYZ, but for whatever reason, you didn't get a chance to book a call with our team. It wasn't an issue on our end, was it? Now, I want you guys to, again, think about the differences in frames. Hey, hello. So like, this is a cold call versus, hey, I saw you did this thing, but for whatever reason, you didn't get to book a call. Oh my gosh. Like, was it an issue on our end? You guys see the difference in frames? This is why framing is the most important part of Outbound. It is not something that you can rush. It is not something that you can half-ass. You must put time, energy, and focus into getting the right frame. And don't be lazy with this, because a frame you choose is going to ultimately dictate how successful you are. But think about the genius of concern frame, right? Even using concern frame for people who don't show up for your calls, right? I use concern frame whenever people go hop on a call, and if they're late for a meeting, I'll literally text them and be like, "Oh gosh, like is the Zoom link broken? Oh my, is there anything wrong with the link?" And people will see it and respond like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry. I forgot about it." Like whatever. The reason why I'm reaching out to them is because I'm being concerned for whatever XYZ is happening. So concern frame, absolutely amazing, incredible. I promise you it works. Leverage this frame by any means possible. All right. So now what do you do for no-shows? What's a good no-show frame to use? Well, my favorite one for no-shows is literally just taking responsibility. Hey, saw that you didn't get to show up to our call that was last month. You take ownership. You're like, you know what? That's on me. Actually, I didn't give you a strong enough reason to actually show up. Now, notice how I didn't put blame on the prospect. This is a mistake that a lot of people do when they're reaching out to no-shows, is you want to put blame on them for whatever reason they didn't show up. Now, to be fair, it probably is their fault, right? But when you use this frame and you take accountability, you're like, hey, you know what? That's on me. I didn't give you a strong enough reason to actually show up. It completely disarms any resistance that you're going to get from them, and they're going to respect you for it. And more importantly, they're going to be open to still hop on a call. So this is the frame that we use always. Don't ever tell them, well, hey, you missed our call. Why don't you just take ownership? Why don't you just take the blame and say, you know what? I didn't remind you enough, or I didn't give you a strong enough reason to show up. That's the no-show frame. Now, what did we actually decide to use for this company? We used a hybrid. Okay. This is what I call combining frames. The cool thing about angles is it doesn't have to be either or. You can put everything together. And so what we did was I came up with the free training frame combined with middleman, which by the way, you should always be using middleman as a hybrid with anything you choose, combined with concern frame. Think about the genius of this. This is the script that we wrote. Hey, Bob, this is Dylan from XYZ's team. Notice the question mark tonality, right? Kind of like doing a question mark. That's to actually lessen the guard of somebody when you're calling them out of the blue. Now, again, remember, these are leads in the CRM, so this isn't cold. These are warm. These are warm leads who opted in and have seen training and have seen the brand. So they know when you mention the name of the owner, they know who the owner is. Now, will this also work on cold? Yeah, technically, it's be higher volume. It could, but just know that this is more so for warm. Okay. He noticed that you requested his training on how to do X without getting Y or without doing Y, right? You always want to name your trainings that way. How to get this result without doing this thing that's terrible and that sucks. And just wanted to make sure that you got that training. Like, did you happen to receive it? So you'll see, notice how the middleman frame, hey, I'm calling because he noticed that you requested the training and he told me to reach out. Middleman frame. Why am I reaching out to them? Oh, free training. Hence the second part, right? This is where we frame switch. Did anyone from our team reach out in regards to our free advanced training that we created? Oh, no? Okay, cool. Well, just so I know like what training to send you, is it cool if I ask you a few questions? And just like that, from calling every single person on the list, guess what? We're in discovery. We're actually qualifying people, getting the information we need, and we're in discovery using the frame. Notice how it's free training and middleman combined with concern frame. Did you get it? Did you actually receive the training? Here's the cool thing. I don't care if they've seen the training. I don't care if they did get it. I don't care if they didn't get it. I just want to have a conversation and qualify them and move them to the next step, right? Notice how powerful it is and how easy it is when you have the right frame. And just so you know, in our numbers, like in our Slack channel, what we're averaging, every person that answers the phone, we are averaging a 60% conversion rate to the next step using this frame. Let me say that again to put that in perspective. Every 10 people who answer the phone or respond to a text message and has a conversation using this frame right now with our 2 setters, get to that later, they are averaging 6 out of 10 people either moving to a call or going to a conversation with one of the DM closers. 60%. Super, super high. That's the power of having a right frame. So what did we actually do? After I created the script, the first thing, remember, tier 1, here's what I did for tier 1 people. I looked over and was like, you know what? If all these people have already purchased and they bought a course, it sounds like they've never really had an onboarding call. None of them. So I was like, well, why don't I just use a launch call frame and say, hey, let's come up with a game plan that's included with this program that you already paid for. Let's get you on a call and let's set up a 90-day game plan so that we can kind of like re-kick you off. I don't even care if they've been in a year ago. And so we tracked every response. I personally wrote an outbound email campaign. It was a drip of 4 emails that we sent out to our list of all past buyers. And here's what was completely crazy about this. That one email campaign booked over 70 appointments on the calendar over the course of 3 to 4 days. 70 plus appointments. I literally over 70 hours, was not expecting it at all. Just to be clear, I didn't think the frame would work that well. I just came up with it on the fly. Again, framing is super important. Now, remember, I told you guys about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. And I'm going to be completely transparent with you on all of that. Let's kind of talk about like the bad with doing this. I noticed through this process that a lot of the same names had booked multiple calls. So the same person was booking like 2 to 3 times on my calendar. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why do so many people keep rebooking on my calendar? Come to find out, when I went and looked at the campaign, there was no exclusion for people who got the first email and did book a call. They got email number 2 and 3 that is basically saying, hey, I emailed you yesterday and you never booked. Now, to be clear, was this annoying? Yes. Was there frustration at the team for missing such an easy mistake and not thinking it through? Yes. But the benefit of this is that nothing is going to go perfectly when you're taking massive action, ever. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen that will frustrate you. And it's also a blessing in disguise because this allowed us to understand what the skill deficiencies of the team are. Now the team knows, hey, next time we launch campaigns, we should think things through and make sure that you're putting the right triggers in place so this never happens again. So never berate your team. Whenever you're doing something, you're taking massive action and everything's a learning lesson, even if you're frustrated and even if you're stressed out and you're just go, and you're burnt out in the night because you're just taking so many calls, never take it out on your team. Everything that comes up is still a learning lesson for you and your team for growth. So still, it's a blessing in disguise, even though that one mistake actually happened. After we sent that out and then had 70 plus calls booked, it was time to hire outbound setters. We hired 2 people who have previous experience. And the whole goal was for them to go after tier 3 leads and to outbound using the script and the frame that I already shared with you on this training. And like I told you, they were having a 60% take rate of all conversations going to the next step, which is great. We onboarded them, got them access to the CRM, got them access to work emails, Slack and everything. And again, the good, the bad, and the ugly, onboarding wasn't as smooth. There was a lot of stuff that they had to put in place and build SOPs out for because up to this point, everything was chat. They never had an actual phone team. Then we did trainings and role plays immediately. I mean, the moment they were on board and they had access, we went straight to training on the script, doing role plays, and literally getting them to do the outbound script over and over and over again, to the point that by the time they were on live dials, their introduction of the script was flawless. I mean, absolutely perfect the first time, which is exactly what you want. You want to drill that repetition over and over. Never hire a setter and then just feed them to the wolves and let them go and waste leads. Practice with them first. And finally, within 14 days, leads were assigned to them, which again, that was a process, assigning leads. And it exposed weaknesses within the team, showing that, okay, they've never done this before. They've never assigned leads in the CRM. They've never had to manage it this way. And there's a lot of things that went wrong that wasn't working correctly. And it really exposed the skill deficiencies of the team. But the team, through doing this the first time, now learns and they are set up for success later. So next time when they go to onboard new people, guess what? They've already done it. So all the blood, sweat, and tears and the frustrations you're feeling right now and your team are going to feel, because it will happen. Just know that that's them learning. They are failing their way forward and it's not going to go perfect. And that's okay. Do not cast the finger and point blame to anyone at fault. The only time it's unacceptable is when people make the same mistake twice. Okay. And the result of that, on top of the other 70, was another 25 plus appointments that were booked, right? And we decided to put them on compensation for hours plus also commissions. So we know they're going to be grinding. They're putting in these hours dialing. We also want to incentivize them with commissions to make sure that everything was profitable. So here's the good news. The good news of this process is that Outbound worked. I mean, the tier 1 emails plus outbounding all the past leads. I mean, people booked, conversations were happening, offers were made, demand was real. Ended up getting 2 closes at the 4K. Actually, I think they do have a pending 12K now, which is proof that the upsell could work when positioned with the right audience. There's tons of pipeline momentum. Even the non-buyers provided valuable value feedback about the offer and positioning. And what was even more baffling to me was the 95+% show rate. And again, I'm not kidding. 95+% show rate to these calls from the past buyers who already paid $1,000. And just so you guys know, there was no automations running for appointment reminders, 0. Meaning people were booking out 1 to 2 weeks later with no appointment reminders whatsoever set up in the CRM. 0, not an hour, not a day before, no reminders. And they still showed up for the call. Why? Because they are past buyers. They had already paid money. That is a very, very high intent lead, which goes to show when you focus on high intent leads, you're going to have a good show rate even without fancy reminders. So don't be stressed about the reminders. If you're hitting your tier 1, you're going to have a good show rate. The numbers don't lie. Good news continued. Insanely high answer rate, meaning we were averaging over 40% dial to answer rate. And just so you guys know, I've been doing this a long time, and that is actually unheard of. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to be real with you. When I saw the answer rate and our numbers of them dialing and how many people they were getting on a call with, I was shocked, which again, this proves that the level of avatar you're going after is very, very important. If you're going after a high intent audience, now in this case, these are actual life insurance agents. These are people who run a business. They have day-to-day operations. They're always working on their phone because they're in the field and they already work from their phone, and they're even doing calls to prospecting themselves to sell policies. Of course, they're going to be there on their phone. So the numbers do make sense to that avatar. Just know you're probably not going to have a 40% answer rate depending on who you're going after, and that's okay. Whatever you have and work with, you just have to adjust. Now, 25% plus booking rate, 1 in every 4 conversations were turning into a booked call. Okay. Again, this is absolutely crazy. I mean, I've never seen such a high booking rate ever in my career. And now earlier, I know you're like, well, 25% booking rate, but I thought you said 60% before. Well, that's because we ended up switching, which I'll get to later on in the conversation, switching to chat instead of an actual phone call. The booking rate was off of qualified people. Okay. I want to be very clear. We weren't forcing anyone onto a phone call who was not qualified for the high ticket offer, which is why it was a 25% booking rate. So 1 in every 4 conversations were qualified enough to be booked on the call. And if they weren't qualified, they did not book them. But later on, we ended up switching that and not doing booked calls. I'm going to cover why later on in the training. Little to no resistance. This was wild to me. Even leads from over 6 months ago were still receptive to the phone call. And the reason being is because they recognize the name of the owner. I cannot stress this enough. The high answer rate, the high booking rate, the little to no resistance really comes down to one thing, and that is brand recognition. Because the owner of this company is consistently posting over time and posting content, it's changing the game for everything. Whatever problem you have in your business right now, if you have low conversions, if you have a low answer rate, if you have low intent people, you want to know what solves everything? Literally building a brand. Literally taking the time to post content consistently over time. If you build a brand, it's going to solve a lot of the problems in your business. I promise you. And this was just such a big aha moment awakening for me, because after seeing these numbers and working with someone who's just so consistent, and I've worked with people like that in the past versus people who don't, it really gave me this realization of like, oh, wow, it doesn't really make sense to work with people that don't focus on branding and they're not posting content. And in 2026, if you're watching this training, you absolutely need to be doing content, whether you're doing inbound or outbound. It is an absolute must have. It is going to be the single thing that will make or break you when it comes to being successful in your business. I promise you. So moral of the story, build a brand. Okay. Posting content consistently changes the game. I'm not saying you have to have 200K followers like this business owner at all, okay? But if you can just post consistently, even if you're doing outbound, think about if you do cold. If you're doing cold outreach, the first thing someone's going to do is they're going to look you up online. But if they search you online and there's nothing to show because you're not posting consistently, then why are they going to be interested in carrying on a conversation? If you want high response rates, you want higher conversions, you want high show rates, and you want a shorter sales cycle, outbound cannot work if you do not have a social presence. Okay. This is kind of that thing I was telling you early on that I was going to bring up later in the conversation. This is it. This is the glue. You have to build a brand. Just get a posting cadence and just be consistent. I don't care if it's 3 times a week, whatever. Whatever you decide, as long as you can commit to yourself that you're going to stay consistent for the next 10 years, then go for it. Choose whatever you can do to build that rhythm and not miss a beat, because it's going to change the game for your company. All right, now let's get into the bad news. After being on 70 plus grueling hours, and yes, I stayed on the calls, most leads were actually not a fit. Now, if you remember earlier, we had the pending 12K deal, we had the 2 4Ks, but there were a lot of calls I was on. So was it an issue of like closing? Well, no, it was actually an issue of offers. Out of all those calls, we only made 3 offers, which told us one thing. There was a super, super high disqualification rate, and the audience that was being attractive through marketing means were not ideal for the next level of their ascension, right? Which, by the way, major problem, right? Major problem. And this could be the case for you right now. And so I'm going to tell you what we did and how we adjusted. And I want to also tell you why this necessarily isn't bad news. It was not a waste of time. And the reason why it wasn't a waste of time is because I got valuable insights on these calls. I was able to have so many conversations with people in the program that I determined where they were stuck. I was literally asking people where I was like, okay, let's just not even think about the offer. There's nothing to pitch. More than likely, they're not going to be the right avatar based on the needs of what they told me, who is qualified based on these conversations. And that's okay. How can I just get valuable feedback? And so I did a diagnosis of everything. What are you struggling with? Why did you join the program? Hey, this person that's a case study, that's at this, that's taking these steps, what's holding you back? And then I took notes of it and I put all the notes into data to present to the business owner. And you want to know what's funny? The data was so consistent over time that I realized people struggled with posting content consistently, even though they knew what the frameworks were. They struggled with the tech, and the upsell that was being used was actually a more advanced build for the CRM tech. So they had people coming through and they would upgrade them to a done for you build. But here's what's fascinating. Everybody was intimidated by the tech because there were lower avatars. So the upsell actually didn't make any sense for them. They not only were intimidated, but they weren't even using it. They weren't even using it over and over again. So I started collecting this data and I started noticing all of these patterns. So they weren't posting consistently. They had an issue with the data, and there was one video that they had to do for their training that for whatever reason they were just stuck on, right? And some people were stuck for months. They wouldn't sit down and take the effort to actually record it. So after having all this, I actually went to the business owner and I said, hey, listen, here's where everyone's stuck in the program. Here's the stuff in your program that they paid for that's overwhelming them and they're not even using. And the blessing in disguise of this is we were able to actually cut a lot of the stuff that was there and literally told them, hey, why don't we actually have key activation points? And why don't we get people to the point where they can actually get a result, and anything that is not related to them doing those steps, let's just cut it from the program and let's set them up for success to get that key result so where they can upgrade to a different offer later on. And that's actually exactly what we did. Now, I highly, highly recommend that you actually take the time to interview your past buyers. The feedback that I got was pure gold. Like there's no amount of money, there's no value I can assign to the feedback I was able to get for the business owner on where they were stuck, why they bought, how to improve it, and what it is that they actually need. Making your product better over time by getting this feedback is going to be worth significantly more to your company over time. I promise you. So find out why they joined, have conversations with them, determine why they joined, and more importantly, find out what's actually keeping them stuck in your offer. And I'm telling you, what they tell you may actually surprise you. Their feedback is worth their weight in gold. Do not hesitate to do this. And if you do outbound and it turns out that they're not qualified, that's okay. Have the call. Don't cancel the call. They already booked. Use this opportunity in those hours, even if you're tired and you're drained, to get the feedback you need, because you can take that and still increase the lifetime value of your company. All right, part 3, fixing the real problem. Let's get into what the actual solution was. We finally realized after this data that the product just needed more clarity, not more leads. There was too much content. People were overwhelmed. There was no activation points whatsoever to actually get them to the next step. There was no defined milestone for them to even upgrade to something that was even good fit for them. And the users just didn't know when they were actually ready for more. So we had to completely rebuild the offer and the journey from the ground up. And here are the results of what we did. We decided to implement an actual 10-day challenge with clear onboarding structure for all new people who were coming in on the front end of this program. They were already coming in, they were already converting, and they were paying money. So why not just get them onto a group onboarding call, which we did, and actually have the activation points, give them a challenge, actually telling them what to do and what to post, and make it as simple as possible. So the owner actually created 10 days of posting to give them with even the copy. And after implementing this and people going and using it, what's crazy is members were not only closing deals and policies in their first 10 days, but they had one guy literally was like, my ex-wife reached out to me because she saw my post and wanted to know what it was that we had going on. And he sold, think about this, he sold a policy to his ex-wife and her new boyfriend or husband or whoever it was, as well as a baseball coach, which is crazy. All from literally using a post in this challenge, and got results right away, which is what you want. You want a simple process for people to join, and what can they execute on, and forget about everything else. All the overwhelm that you feel like you need in your program does not need to be there. Make your program better and make the right activation points necessary. After implementing the challenge, we actually had an upgrade mechanism now. Group onboarding, tell them what the activation point is, what to do, what to post. Here's the 10-day challenge. Whenever you complete it, activation point is achieved. And then boom, once the right avatar, after we know who's qualified, achieves that activation point, now we can actually get them on an upgrade call to go to the next logical level, which is now nothing related to what it used to be. He actually has something that's more support, and it's actually selling. So Outbound went to the right insight. That insight actually led us to fixing the product and making it better, which is now going to allow us to be able to scale. This wasn't just about selling more. I want to be very clear. By doing Outbound, we were able to create a repeatable system that earned the right to ask for more revenue. Also, we raised the price across the board. We knew, well, we already have these setters. How can we make this margin heavy to where we can still be profitable and be able to increase LTV? So we took that same $995 and we increased it to $1,500. Here's what's crazy. After bumping the price up to $1,500 through chats, no longer doing the over the phones for the setter, we had the same volume using the same exact chat flow, the same amount of effort, and our conversions went up. Okay. Let me say that again. We increased the price of the front end program and the conversions went higher. We're actually selling more at a higher price point through chat now, just from increasing the perceived value of the program. And with the new upsell, we now were able to increase the price of the new upsell from $4K to $7,500 because it's actually related to what they need and not what it was before, with less volume, stronger buyer commitment, and better margin. Raising the price wasn't just about revenue. It was about attracting the right customers who are ready to commit, because there's even another offer that we were able to come up with by focusing on the back end. And that one I'll get to in a moment. First, what did we do with the setters? So we decided to say, you know what? This process of chat is already working. There's no need for them to get on calls. Let's just have everyone go through the challenge, hit an activation point, and then we can increase LTV. So we had all setters push all past leads to the current process. No more booking calls, no more qualifying. And by doing so, we were able to take their call time that it had to be to qualify and get them on a book call and cut it in half. Now their output efficiency is less time, which means more conversations. And I just checked the CRM. On the CRM, we had a rep yesterday send out 18 links to the chat training. He got 18 people in one day yesterday. 18 people in one day going through this chat flow. That's 18 people who the chat closers can go and convert into this process to hop on an onboarding call on top of what's already coming in inbound. Makes it super easy to duplicate. And that is what led to the 60% whopping conversions, because we don't have to worry about qualifying anyone anymore and getting them for a booked call. Everyone is qualified. You just go and watch the training, let the chat closers do their thing. They'll qualify them and they'll make the offer. All you got to do is just push them there. Super, super easy process. And when you have things that are simple, simple scales. And finally, we launched a new ultra premium offer. There is a percentage of people, after having conversations, very, very few, but they are ready for the highest level of support possible. We decided created a 33K and a 55K offer, basically meaning 6 months versus 12 months. And they already sold one on the back end. By keeping this back end offer only, no more front end sales, have everyone go through the process, it drastically affected the lifetime value. So once you understand here is like, even through doing this process, doing outbound, does that necessarily mean that you're going to figure out that all of your people are qualified to be upgraded and be upsold on the front end? No, not necessarily. You could actually figure out later that, hey, you know what? The avatar we've been getting aren't actually ideal for this offer. And you know what? You never would have known that if you didn't do outbound in the first place. So you can take the best of a scenario of what's already working, improve your process, and just squeeze out the percentage of people who are a good fit and sell them later on through the process. And that also increases the lifetime value of your avatar and your business. So here, drum roll, new numbers. We had a 20% upgrade rate from people coming in through the process, meaning if they come and they pay, 20% of them are going to upgrade to the next tier, which is 7,500, even on payment plans. And by selling the back-end premium offer based on the numbers and the data we have with that one, that means we only need one per quarter, and the numbers are actually holding up of people qualified to where they can go through that process and sell at least one per quarter. And just by these two things, we were able to double the LTV by adding outbound into it. And by the way, that outbound into it has a 20% increase into the front end, meaning ads are coming in, people are selling through chat and closing, and the outbound people, the people who don't make it to the training, they're calling everybody on the lead list. They're sending out emails and they're text messaging. And by doing so, they're adding another 20% of those conversions into the same process. A huge improvement into this process, because that's an additional 20% more people that the chat closers get to do their thing for, which again, more front end sales, more onboarding, more upgrades, and getting the people necessary to go into the high ticket premium offer on the back end. By doubling the lifetime value of this business, we are now able to get them to the point where they can 3x and 5x ad spend and stay profitable, which is exactly what the goal is over the next quarter. Before, they couldn't increase their ad spend because their LTV was on the cusp. They were doing about a 2.3x. Typically, before you scale on ads, you want a 3x ROAS, right? They weren't at 3x, but now that we've doubled it and they're at 4.6x ROAS, they are able to now increase ad spend. So what does this mean? This means that now with a higher LTV, they can simply increase their ad spend and go from 80 to 100K a month to 300 and 500K per month within the next quarter, in the next 90 days. They can just increase volume, and with the capacity they have right now, not even need to hire any extra chat closers because they can handle the capacity. They can go from 100K a month to 3 to 500K per month, just because outbound allow us to find the inefficiencies in the company and increase output and increase the lifetime value of the business, thus allowing them to finally be able to bump up ad spend and scale. Remember, all of these changes only happened in the past 45 days. Success loves speed, so you must take massive action. All right, now I'd like to cover the rules and the lessons learned through this process so we can just kind of share everything, get everything out on the table. First thing is outbound amplifies truth, okay? If your offer is weak, it's going to break faster. If you have a strong offer, you're going to be able to scale. So just because you're outbounding doesn't mean that everything's going to be successful. It could actually expose weaknesses in your product or your offer that need fixing, and that is still a good thing. Rule number 2, always warm outbound first. Always, okay? Hit your past buyers. Figure out the people that are your no-shows. Find inactive members who just never engaged or never moved forward. You got to earn the right to go cold. Before you go in a tackle cold market, which we're about to get to, if you can't convert warm leads, then cold outbound is going to be very, very difficult. Master warm first before you decide to go after cold. And finally, rule number 3, talk to your customers. Sales calls are more than just sales. You need the right feedback loops to figure out what's working and what's confusing. And you're never going to know if you don't interview your audience. You need to figure out, based on product research, what is it that they actually need? What is it that they want? What are they using? What are they not using? What's making them stuck? What are their fears? By doing this and improving it, you can still increase the lifetime value of your customers without even making extra sales. You can just get people better results and then sell them on the back end. All right, as promised, as a bonus, we're going to cover lightly B2B cold outreach. If you're brave and you feel like right now, after doing this process, that you have warm mastered, okay, this is very, very important. If you haven't mastered warm, I'm going to tell you right now, do not tackle cold. But if you do master warm, how do you tackle cold? Let's cover it. Now, final warning on this. If you don't post content and you don't have any proof and you don't know your numbers, cold is about to be the most brutal path that you can possibly take. You have to have so much credibility. You have to have so much consistency and so much clarity on your offer and your process. Because if you don't have content, you don't have trust. There's going to be no interest if you don't have proof. And if you don't know your numbers, you're going to feel like you're completely out of control and you're not going to know what's working. So if you don't have content, you don't know proof, and you don't even know what your numbers are, again, please do not tackle cold. Very, very important. But if you do, here's the actual playbook. First, your list source is going to determine whatever frame. So throughout this training, you can literally go back and watch this training and say, okay, what frame can I use based on my offer? And deciding where you're coming from. Some people like to get leads from scraping stuff on websites and data. Great. Some people like to buy things like Apollo IO, etc., where they have different leads that you can go and segment. Great. Whether you're buying lists, whether you're scraping them, or whether you're using LinkedIn, figure out what your list source is, then determine what frame you're going to use. Now, once you have this, I still recommend, if you're B2B, and you should be, go to LinkedIn. You're going to still want to connect with as many of these people on LinkedIn as humanly possible, because they're going to be able to see your social proof, and you're going to be able to kind of like leverage that at top of the email. You can leverage the fact that you're connected to them on LinkedIn or that you found them on LinkedIn, even though you still pull the data from somewhere else. After you connect with them on LinkedIn, you're sending out this connection request. You're still going to want to go and email them. So the flow is still the same. Send them an email, send them an SMS if you have that data and you actually know their phone numbers. And then once you're done and you send out your connection request to your entire list, let's say it's something like 500, you don't have to hit all 10,000 or 20,000. You can do 500. And then you send out all the text messages. Then you're going to go and call every single person on the list, and you're going to leverage LinkedIn and leverage the email with the frame. Okay. Very, very important. Please do not burn your entire list. Batch all of these out in 50 to 100 leads, because you got to test different frames and find an angle that works. Because again, cold is a completely different beast. But if you master cold, it's very, very profitable, because your cost to acquire a customer can, in most cases, be significantly less than what it is to pay for advertising. So that is the bonus and the blessing in disguise with this, but it's very, very hard to do. When you test campaigns and you find winners, then you can actually go and scale. Now, step 1, decide your data source. Purchasing lists, scraping websites, LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is high trust, permission-based. Hey, I saw your profile. Your data source is going to obviously determine your frame and your credibility. Step 2, like we said, connect on LinkedIn. Why this works, you have a familiar name. You're going to have higher reply rates because they're going to actually be able to look up your profile, and much lower resistance because it feels a lot warmer than it does on a cold email, because they actually have content and a face to match the name. Step 3, then you're going to send an email. You're going to typically want to wait about 2 to 3 days after connecting. And then when you send the email, keep it short and concise. Okay. 3 to 5 sentences max. You don't have to send an entire novel. Busy people are going to scan because they are busy. This is B2B. They don't want to read an entire novel and hear your life story. Keep it short and concise and stay on whatever frame you chose. Make sure that you're actually using references so that they understand that you're credible, right? Anything that you have for credibility, use it, because this is your time to make a first impression. And keep it opportunity focused. What is in it for them? Now, I see a lot of people make the mistake of sending out outreach on LinkedIn cold and sending out emails. And then the first thing they do is they say, hey, here's my link and click a time to connect. Essentially what you just said is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, I know you never heard of me before, but go ahead and give up your time that I haven't earned and hop on a call with me for no reason whatsoever, right? That just because you give somebody your booking link does not mean that they're going to find it valuable. I promise you. So don't do that. Don't spam them and send out your initial email and then invite them to book a call on your calendar right away. You haven't earned the right to do that yet. Okay. And that's a huge, huge mistake. And remember, this is an invitation to explore something relevant. This isn't a pitch. We're not at the point where it's time to pitch them yet. All right. Step 4, SMS. Again, if available, you want to send SMS after you send the email. Okay. Not before. Now, it's way more powerful, but it does feel more intrusive. Okay. So this is going to actually reinforce your email. This is why sending email first is so important, because you're literally going to say, hey, I just sent you an email and I wanted to make sure it didn't get buried. Like, you can literally lean on through text message. Hey, I sent you an email talking about XYZ and we never heard back. And then they're going to see the text message and they're going to be like, oh, that's so weird. What is the email? And if they text you back, here's the cool thing about it. You literally just call them. If I send out a text message and talk about an email that I just sent you and it's completely cold and you text me back and say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, I haven't found it. Guess what I get to do? I know you're at your phone. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm just going to call you right then and there because your phone is literally right in front of your face. Great. And I get to be like, hey, it's me. Instead of just like texting back, I figured it was easier to talk. Do you have 10 minutes to chat? Great. Leverage that time of knowing they're in front of their phone. And finally, step 5, call last. Okay. Email sent, message, name recognized. Now, guess what? Now it's a warm conversation. If they did read the email and they did watch anything that you sent them and they responded through SMS, even though they technically haven't met you yet, you've actually taken something cold and turned it into a warm conversation. This is why you want to call last, because you have an opportunity to at least make it warm. Now, final warning, cold outreach. I know I've been saying this over and over again. It is an uphill battle if you are not posting content. So please do not expect any miracles. And I'm telling you from experience, if you know deep down in your heart and soul, you aren't going to prioritize content, you're not going to be posting. Now, when I say posting, I mean you, the founder, actually taking the time, energy, and effort to document your journey, to talk about your learning lessons. When I say posting, I don't mean outsourcing this to a VA or hiring some third-party company that's just going to come up with images and text quotes and posting. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you as a founder aren't going to take content seriously and you're not going to have content that is actually worth the damn, and you're not going to put it out there, you're not going to prioritize it, that's okay. Just do not do cold outreach, period. If you're not going to do content, don't even go cold. You're not going to be successful. It's very, very difficult. I've still to this day, I've never seen it work scalable in a scalable way for any company that's doing completely cold, that does not have a brand and does not post content. And I've been doing this for a very, very long time. The first thing these people are going to do is they're going to look up your LinkedIn and they're going to Google you. And if nothing shows up and it's not actually valuable content that's going to change any impact or talk about your frameworks or overcome beliefs or overcome objections, then it's literally wasted effort. When you get going, everything at this point is just going to be about testing different campaigns. See what's working, what's not working, and you always want to test small, okay? 50 to 100 per campaign. Test out different frames. You don't have to get the perfect frame on the first go. You have plenty of time because you're scraping stuff online. So there's literally unlimited amount of leads that you could possibly get when you're doing cold. And test out different copy with different subject lines. Find winners. Now, make sure that you're actually tracking these accordingly. Please use a spreadsheet. If you're going to do this, have a spreadsheet. Keep track of what your subject lines are, what frame you're using. Actually treat this like a business and track the data. Now, what do you actually track? You want to first track everything by campaign and not vanity metrics, okay? How many email open rates are you getting? Like, was the subject line actually compelling enough to get them to open the email? Number 2, replies. Is your message actually resonating enough with them and getting a response based on your SMS or what the subject line of the email is? Are you getting bookings? Like, did this turn into an actual booking? So are conversations actually converting into a scheduled call? And finally, deals. Which campaign at a macro level actually led to deals? So for example, let's say you look at a campaign and you realize, well, this one has a ton of open rates, but it's not getting any deals. And there's one that has lower open rates, but it is getting deals. Obviously, by looking at the numbers, knowing what to track, you can see what campaign to double down on. Obviously, conversations and deals are more important than how many email open rates you're getting, right? That's common sense. You're never going to know if you don't actually track it. And remember, outbound isn't spam. It's systematized leadership. And if you feel after watching this training that you are ready to tackle cold or even warm, and you want to know how to actually implement all these, what are the scripting? What's the frame? How do we do this? Then I highly recommend that you subscribe to a new newsletter that I'm launching on LinkedIn called the Profit Partner Playbook. Okay. It's not launched yet, but I'll put a link in the description below when it is ready to go. And you can literally subscribe to the newsletter on LinkedIn. And I'm going to have all the scripting, all the frameworks, and everything laid out in articles so that you can literally take this and run with this so you can go and have success. And why do I do this? Well, because if you go and you implement what's in the newsletter and you end up needing help, I'm always looking for other deals that I can go and partner on and hopefully help you do the same thing I'm doing with this company. And there could be a mutual benefit for both of us. Thank you guys for tuning into the episode. Thank you for supporting the channel and the show. And I will catch you guys on the next episode.